Why has Germany broken the promise it made to some of the most vulnerable people in Africa? We begin the program with a story of shattered hope, shaped here in Germany, but felt thousands of kilometers away in Kenya's capital, Nairobi. With 183 refugees now facing an uncertain future, despite already being approved by German officials for resettlement in Germany. And that's because of the new government in Berlin and the coalition deal signed by them 4 months ago. An agreement that commits the country to ending a voluntary resettlement program run by Germany together with the UN and the EU. A program that's already brought more than 5,000 vulnerable refugees to safety here. And with that now on ice, the refugees waiting for visas in Nairobi have been forced to return to the massive refugee camp they thought they were leaving behind. Our correspondent Sela Oneko has recently returned from the Kakuma refugee camp and joins me now for more on this. Sela, you were just in the camp in July. Tell us about how Germany's policy change has had profound consequences for people on the ground there.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's had a huge consequence for the people who were supposed to be resettled to Germany. So they were basically, some of them had been living in the camp for 12 to 13 years. They'd gone through a process of vetting, so where Germany had vetted them, the UNHCR had vetted them, and had prepared them to come to Germany. And that had partly taken like 1 or 2 years. And so leading up to that, there was really a lot of hope. And when they heard that they weren't actually going to go, that really came as a shock to them.
This was April 2025. Shasteza Mukunda and her son boarding their flight away from the refugee camp. First destination, Nairobi. Having fled the war in the Democratic Republic of Congo, Shaste was being resettled from one of Kenya's biggest refugee camps to Germany, along with her neighbor. Something both had been hoping for years.
We felt like we were being saved. We went to Nairobi and were put up in a good place. We ate well, we slept well. Then the bad news came. Germany has rejected us. We are not going.
Dennis Kumer, a pastor from South Sudan, and his family were also on that flight out of the refugee camp. In the past 2 years, they had gone through medical checks, security interviews, and they had their flight itinerary to Germany set. Once in Nairobi, they got a little flight bag with sanitizer and items for their journey. The news they weren't traveling came as a shock.
They told us now that there is an election going on in Germany, that now discontinue your journey. It was not a good day for all of us. So you find everyone fall sick. And now other people like who has pressure, their pressure was now coming up very high. So now people, until even the food was almost to be left, no one who can even eat the food.
What had happened was that Friedrich Merz's centre-right party had won the German election, in part on a promise of curbing migration. And in April this year, his coalition put the brakes on Germany's voluntary participation in a United Nations program to resettle refugees.
We will take a new course on migration. There will be checks at the borders and rejections of asylum seekers. We will also start a deportation drive and put an end to voluntary admission programs.
It's affected refugees in many countries, some of whom are now taking legal action. An immigration lawyer who represents clients from South Sudan and Afghanistan says there are over 50 families and individuals suing the German government.
We are actually confronted with lots of individuals who have legal binding acceptances to get to Germany, and the German new government not only closes their eyes to the individual situation, but they are closing their eyes to the law.
Altogether, 183 refugees were flown back from Nairobi to the camps in April, according to UNHCR. This is the area that the refugees were taken back to, in the very remote northern part of Kenya, not far from the South Sudanese border, and with very little access to food and water. Germany had initially promised to take in 13,000 refugees in the years of 2024 and 2025 globally, but up to now they've only taken in over just a third. Nearly all the refugees had given up their houses, their jobs, and spent their money to buy clothes for the journey to Germany. Camp authorities have now provided them with new housing, where they're basically starting from scratch. Suitcases still packed.
The place is like hell. Coming back to this place, it's like going back to hell when you are in heaven.
Pastor Kumer and his family got somewhat lucky. They were able to move into a house in the camp that Kumer had built himself years ago, but it now houses 15 people. Because he no longer has his job or his position in the church, his wife's donuts, which he sells by the roadside, are now their only source of income.
As a South Sudanese, when I look back home, there is no peace completely. So that motivates me really to look for another place. Then when I also assess the area of Kakuma here, things are not going well.
All of the refugees we spoke to had dreamt of an end to their displacement and the hardship posed by living in a refugee camp. And perhaps most importantly, a better future for their children, a hope many here still cling onto.
Sela, it must be heartbreaking for these refugees who thought that they were on the doorstep of a new life, having to return back to hell, as one of the people there put it. Why would he use the word hell to describe the camp? What did you see there?
Well, you have to imagine Kakuma as a place in the north of Kenya, which is very remote, very arid, and so there's little water, little resources there. And when we visited Makonde, who referred to it as hell, he and his family didn't have water for several days. No water for drinking, no water for washing. And so that's the situation his family was living in. And another thing that has happened in the last few months due to the Trump administration's funding cuts, basically, they've affected the whole camp. So, for example, there's very little food at the moment. And this month, in August, for example, there will be not enough food distributed to the refugees. So that makes the situation in the camps even more difficult. And since they had the hope that they were going to leave, that was really a terrible thing to come back to.
DW correspondent for East Africa, Sela Oneko, thank you. The German government's decision to end the resettlement program meant an abrupt end to the flights, bringing vulnerable refugees to safety here in Germany. And my next two guests are Ashol Lual, who fled South Sudan with her family 10 years ago and who was on the very last resettlement flight that was allowed to leave Africa back in February. With her is Ruth Dirks, who is the family's mentor from the NEST program. To both of you, I say welcome to DW News Africa.
Welcome.
I want to start with you, Ashol. Your family's journey to Germany started a decade ago in South Sudan. You were 10 years old. Tell me what you remember of South Sudan and why your family wanted to leave.
I don't remember people in South Sudan, but I remember life is not easy in South Sudan. All the time, people you don't understand what you need. People in South Sudan, no school, no eat, no health. Everything is not good.
Do you remember when you were told you'd be moving to Germany? What were you feeling when you found that out?
I'm so happy. When you will tell him you are go to German, I'm so happy. That's his new life. I will go to school. I will go to. I have home. I have new friend. Mama, she go to school. That is important in my life. I like to see Mama to go to school. In Africa, Mama she not go to school. Even me, she go to school. She not go to school. But in Germany, we'll come in Germany. Mama she go to school, and me and my sister. That's good. But in Africa, no school. You need to go to work. You need to give. Yeah, you need to bring money. You know. But in German, people in Germany help me in my family. I thank God.
I want to talk more about Germany, but you've made me think of about a few things here. When you were still living in Africa, you said you didn't go to school. You had to bring money. What do you remember doing to try to bring money?
I will go. I will go to work, and I will stay here in cafe. I will go to home. I will fly home, and then I will go to that's cafe. I will go to cafe, work. That's all in Cairo.
And you were only a teenager, of course. Stay with us, Ashol, for a moment. Ruth, you are a mentor with the NEST program, and you worked with Ashol's family. Give us a sense of what exactly you and the program do for refugee families who have resettled here in Germany.
Yes, the first is we must have a flat for them and prepare the flat that they can live inside. And then we do all to help them to be integrated in the German life. First, we picked them up from the aeroplane in Hanover and we brought them to that flat. Then it was in January in the winter, they got clothes for this time. A few days later, I brought them to the schools, the little children to the schools, and Ashol and her mama to the German courses. Another mentoree helps them with the visits at the job center, at the Ausländerbehörde, at the bank. All this must be organized. They must get eine Krankenversicherung and
health insurance.
All that must be organized. I started to teach them the Latin handwriting. And now I'm teaching German, and yes.
So basically, you were dealing with people who spoke Arabic, really, and so you're trying to acclimate them to a new culture and a new language. They leaned on you for everything.
In these days, we organized that the two younger children will be operated in the next week because they have a fall and they have rachitis and the legs must be operated. Then they can walk without pain and the legs must be reparated. And it's very hard to make this. It would be very hard for them to make this alone, and therefore we help them and accompany them to the doctor, to the hospital, and yes.
Ruth, you and others are circulating a petition opposing the German government's decision to end the resettlement program. What do you want to achieve? What are you trying to get done?
Yes, the first is that the 138 refugees they know that they could come to Germany 2 days later. This person must be allowed to come to Germany That's our first thing. And we hope that the resettlement and the nest is a part of the resettlement program will continue.
Ruth, thank you so much. Ashel, back to you. You know better than most people how Germany's resettlement program can genuinely change lives. How did it change your life and the life of your family?
That's blessing in me and German. That's big blessing. But in Africa, I can do it anything. I can not doing anything, you know? Africa life is not easy. That's big problem. And in German, you can go to school, you can go to work, you can do it, anything.
Ashel, you understand that you're here in Germany because you were part of a program that Ruth is connected to. And that program is now finished. The German government has decided to finish it. If you could talk to people in the German government about this, what would you say to them?
I tell him, thank you very much. You helped me very, 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 very much.
Okay. That's Ashel Lual and Ruth Dirks. Many thanks to you both. Let's bring in DW political correspondent Matthew Moore from our Berlin studio. Matt, as we saw in the report, many refugees are still stranded in Africa. Is it fair to assume, as many are, that Germany has effectively ended this program for good?
Not quite, Michael, and that's because the new government coalition agreement sets out the details. I've got a copy of it here. And in it, in black and white, it says yes to terminating voluntary admission programmes, and it mentions Afghanistan specifically. However, the government is reviewing its humanitarian resettlement programmes across the world to look at really which programmes can be stopped and which can be continued. And that affects people from Afghanistan, it affects people from Russia, Belarus, political dissidents, Iranian dissidents, and it also affects, as we heard, the people involved in our report who are part of the UN resettlement programme. And I can say that, look, we understand that a decision could be reached on these programmes in a matter of months. But what we cannot say right now, Michael, is whether that's going to bring relief to the people that we heard from in our report.
Why is the German government doing this?
This is all part of a broader effort to toughen Germany's approach to irregular migration. The centre-right Conservative government is facing a threat from the far-right AfD party in this country, the Alternative for Germany party, who are very anti-immigration, and so they've had to shift their politics and their positions on this. And so what we've seen in recent months is really a commitment to stronger border controls here around Germany, but also to send a message that these programmes where Germany has been offering safe haven for people around the world, that Germany is going to be looking much more closely at those. And essentially, Michael, you talk to politicians here and they say Germany has to take back control of this issue of migration from the far right and show and send a message to the German public that German government is able to act decisively, that it has control of this issue. And ultimately, behind closed doors, they say that we want to send a message that Germany is closed. And until that message gets through, we're going to see a toughening, or we're going to continue to see tougher measures when it comes to migration.
Article 16A of the German Constitution guarantees the right to asylum. Is there still a safe and legal route for refugees to get to Germany?
I put this question to someone at the Interior Ministry in Berlin this morning, and they said the only way that anyone can safely request asylum in Germany is at Germany's borders. So the answer to your question is not really, actually. If someone is in Africa, is in the Horn of Africa and in Kenya and is fleeing war, they have no option really to apply for asylum at the moment. And I was told that the methods that they can turn to are to apply for a visa, but of course that's just not an option for a lot of these people is to apply for a visa to move to Germany, and that it's very unrealistic that they would be granted a visa, given, as I say, this toughening of Germany's approach to migration. And what's interesting is that here in Germany, the kind of the centre ground has shifted so much so that the only people that are really willing to, the only political parties that are really willing to criticise the government on this issue are on the far left, the Left Party, and some in the Green Party. But at the moment, it's just that the mood has shifted so much in the past 10 years that actually people, the desperately sad stories that we heard about in our report today, that those stories are just not reaching the wider public here in Germany. And when they do, they're very isolated incidents. I mean, we have some coverage of some of the people that have been fleeing the war or the Taliban regime in Afghanistan, and there's a lot of pressure. And I think that pressure is starting to trickle down now to the government to the point where, as I say, we may get a decision to reverse some of the plans to stop some of these resettlement programmes. We may get a decision on that before the end of this year. As I say, though, it does remain to be seen whether that will bring relief to the people that we heard from in our report.
DW political correspondent Matthew Moore. Many thanks to you, Matthew. To Somalia next, a country famous for its camels, and for good reason. It's home to more than 7 million of them, thought to be the world's largest population, with the animals long playing a vital role in Somali culture and folklore. Now these humped beasts are being credited with improving the country's health and boosting jobs, all thanks to a growing industry steeped in tradition.
They may not know it, but these camels are helping to drive a revolution in Somalia. And this farm on the dusty outskirts of the capital Mogadishu is at the heart of it. Part of a new generation now tapping into a growing demand for a traditional resource: camel milk.
Somalis take great pride in their heritage of raising camels. However, the way camels are raised has changed significantly over time. In the past, families did not fully appreciate the value of camel milk. But today, both camel milk and meat production have been revolutionized and increased.
By using modern approaches to animal care and production, each camel here is able to produce as much as 10 litres of milk a day, double what traditional herders yield, some of which is turned into yogurt, a product experts say could provide a major health boost in a country where malnutrition remains a challenge.
Camel milk yogurt is quite rare in the world, yet it offers numerous health benefits. It is rich in magnesium and calcium, which support bone health. Additionally, it contains vitamins B12, C, and D. It also includes friendly bacteria known as probiotics, which are beneficial for gut health.
And amid the rush for camel milk, the Somali government is now encouraging more investment in this growing industry.
And finally, to a magical and colorful spectacle that Benin's government believes can help attract more tourists to the country. Its annual Mask Festival is described as a celebration of Benin's ancestral spirits, heritage, and traditional identity. Held in the capital, Porto Novo, it involves performers reenacting age-old stories passed down through generations. It is especially prominent among the Yoruba, Somba, and Beta Moriba communities, where masked dancers known as Ungungun or Zangbeto hold deep spiritual significance.